should not have come.
Forgive me, Brave. Forgive me, Adia. This is all my fault.
What is this foolishness you speak? You are ever the strength that keeps me alive. And I love you, and Adia, dearly.
Father? Father!
Do not fear. He is merely unconscious. His wounds, they will heal, though it will take some time. And he may never wield his sword again.
Mother, I took up arms against Father. I told myself I was ready to fight him, even if it meant shortening his years.
Then surely you will not stray from your path, so long as you hold that feeling near and dear. By your actions, you have finally granted your father a reprieve from his anguished struggle. It was for the best.
Mother, we now go to awaken the Earth Crystal.
I see.
Forgive me.
There is no need to ask my forgiveness.
Oh, but there is, Mother. For if we awaken the crystal, your treatments will no longer be possible. We will no longer be able to keep what ails you at bay. What sort of daughter does that to her mother?
Oh, Adia, you truly are your father's daughter. And that is what makes you even more dear to me.
Mother!
How very touching. I beg pardon for my interruption, but your fear is misplaced.
And you are...
Of course, you had yet to see me in this form. I am Lester de Rosso. But you may address me as Lord de Rosso.
What do you mean our fear is misplaced?
It appears you have underestimated the Templar's great deeds. Deeds for which he risked life and limb. For he has advanced science and medicine in this land by 100 years. While complete cures may not yet be possible, sickness and disease can be prevented from further progression. Awakening the crystal shall not rob your mother of such mortal life as she has left, Idia.
So then...
We're free to awaken the crystal!
Dear...
Ironic, is it not? To think I would be the one to urge the Wind Vestal and her companions to awaken the crystal. I can see purpose unwavering in your eyes. 'Tis as if I gaze upon Brave the Templar in his youth. And yet, there is still much that you cannot fathom. I have seen years measuring in thousands. Hope and sentiment intertwined with right and wrong, good and evil. The rise and fall of the Orthodoxy, the restoration of Eternia, the two conflicting beliefs concerning the crystals. So much may happen in a life immortal.
The way to Everlast Tower is beyond this door.
Let's go!
This was once the Temple of Earth. Look what has become of it. I've never set foot here either. Yet the change is clear.
Well, at least it seems the Eternian forces dare not deploy troops here.
Yet I sense a foul presence.
Monsters, no doubt.
It may be after the Earth Crystal. Let's hurry!
Splendid! Wow! Not that I really understand.
Yes, I'm afraid I didn't follow that either.
It seems I must look beyond what I had thought was simple desecration of the crystal.
The healing waves emanating from the crystal. This one also reads, submitted by Victor S. Court. It seems they truly wish to advance medicine.
That treatment Idia's mother was receiving must have resulted from this research.
How could have such worthy efforts gone so terribly wrong?
Interim report on alchemical life research. Oh, this one reads, submitted by Vincent S. Court.
Alchemical life? They went beyond merely saving lives?
Wait, there's more. This so-called alchemical life is unstable, and keeping the resulting subjects alive comes at great difficulty. So, it seems they propose that the research be shut down. Crystallist of high standing. This is what the author wrote about the Great Plague.
How terrible! How could they be so cruel?
By saying we had no other choice, no doubt.
But to have a way to battle the plague and not use it, they simply forsook them. The end of the plague. The date is much later than the past entries.
He sounded like a hero in the making. If he had counted among the Orthodoxy's leaders, this land would have perhaps changed for the better. But then perhaps I wouldn't have been here with you today.
The end of the world. That's how the Earth Vestal was slain.
What an awful tale! With a stroke of his long blade.
The Reconquest of Eternia. I wonder what it says in here. The Reconquest Campaign. Troop deployments. head temple occupation. It says this one is written by Sir Argent Heinkel, Commander. The occupation of the city. This one says it's written by Commander Sigma Kent.
What have they done to it? How awful! What do they think the crystal is? Some kind of toy? Forgive me.
No, Edea. Why should you repent for the sins of your father? Now, let's get on with the rite of awakening.
What's that on the crystal?
That's Gigas Lich! It's the propagator of doom as told of in the sacred texts of the Orthodoxy.
Well, whatever it is, here it comes!
after when that creature first settled here. I refused to believe this could be my father's doing.
For better or worse, I believe the Eternian forces would have guarded the crystal from such threats. Maybe it took advantage of their weakened state to slip in unnoticed.
Save your jabbering for later! We have a crystal to awaken! Okay, here goes. This is the fourth and final crystal. Make us proud, Agnes! What's wrong? It's really nothing. But time and time again, the Duchy's people have warned us not to awaken the crystal. Agnes! I know. I ought not let it bother me. Now, let us begin, Eri.
Holy smokes! That was by far the brightest of the 4 crystals.
Agnes, are you alright?
Yes. Thank you, Tiz. Now all 4 of Luxembourg's crystals have been awakened. Nice work, everyone. What a joyous day. Now perhaps the world...
Is the Great Chasm gone?
Nuh-uh. Awakening all 4 crystals should have caused a pillar of light to rise somewhere in our world. It's the Holy Pillar, the first light, divine source of life and the origin of this world and the heavens above. Once I place my brooch within the Holy Pillar, the first light will spread across the world. And its divine light, born of the awakened crystals, will sweep away all darkness. And the Great Chasm should vanish along with the darkness.
So all we need to do is take you into the Pillar of Light. Then let's go! That is where this will all end.
Lead the way.
I'm with you. Together we go.
Awakened the crystal! I'm so glad to see you're unharmed!
You did it, eh? Well done!
Well, it's not as if we had it easy here. You should have seen the hail of cannon fire! Oh, and by the way, we saw a black airship bearing southwest a short while ago.
Probably a bunch of deserters. Always happens when an enemy is vanquished.
Yup, sure does.
It's no use. The lock won't open.
If you wish to pass this gate, seek you the 6 keystones throughout the lands.
Keystones?
Keys of stone? Stones that are keys?
Though the way is barred, 6 number the holes to be filled. I trust you can figure out the rest. The time is ripe to prove yourselves worthy. I shall say no more.
No fair! Couldn't you offer a small hint? Perhaps a name, a color, a shape?
I said I shall say no more. Now off with you. I shall await your return.
That light is almost blinding. Are you sure Grand Ship is going to survive in there?
We'll be fine. Let's head on in. But only if everyone is ready. Once we go in, there's no turning back. I'm not even sure what'll happen. I mean, this is a first for me, too. So, if you have anything you need to do, now's the time. Well, everyone ready? Okay then, here we go. So beautiful.
I thought it might tear us apart, but instead, it's smooth sailing.
This light, it feels so warm.
I know. And so gentle. And somehow familiar, too.
Dad, you and Zach should go somewhere safe for now, just in case.
If you say so. You be careful now.
Look, everyone! My brooch is starting to absorb the first light from the holy pillar! Once it is completely full, the light will begin to spread across all the world, sweeping away the darkness. Stay there and keep watch, okay? Oh, and keep steady at the helm. We'll have to start all over again if we move out of the light.
Right. Leave it to me.
I need to start meditating so I can focus. Don't bother me till I'm done. I mean, who knows what might happen if I lose my focus? Understood. Okay, here goes. A wondrous and beautiful first light! My brooch awaits your divine radiance!
So much for smooth sailing.
Are you certain the ship is going to survive this in one piece?
I think she will hold together unless it gets much
Worse? What was that?
It's getting worse!
Ah! It's Dads and Zats! To the deck, quick!
Alternis Jim, what business do you have here?
I come on orders of the Lord Marshal. He has foreseen your folly. And I am here to stop you before you bring ruin unto this world.
Alternis, stop this insanity! It's already over!
Silence! This is not over until I say it is.
If anything were to happen to Aerie right now, ring a bell, go back to the bridge!
Right! First you must get by me.
This ship will tumble out of control if we don't do something!
This ship shall go crashing down, along with all on board. You know not the Lord Marshal's mind.
We've already settled the matter between us. You have no business interfering now.
Settle the matter? Nothing has been settled. All you have is a false sense of understanding. Vessel. I should have killed you long ago. You have become the bane of Eternia. Nay, all the world. Never again shall you deceive Adia.
I've no interest in your foul, twisted belief. It is my sworn task to save the world from ruin, and I shall not fall before my task is done.
Open your eyes, Adia. These traitorous scum have deceived you. Join me now in defeating the Vestal.
How could you say such a thing? Agnes has become a dear friend of mine.
Grand ship's pitching even worse now. She won't hold up much longer.
Underslums of Flora. I survived on muddy waters and gritty sands. But what choice does one have when abandoned soon after birth? Hatred for this accursed world had been my sustenance. That is, until the Grand Marshal saved me. He took me in and raised me as if I were his own. To help him fulfill his ideals became my purpose, my will to live. And now, you fools! You have... Can we not go back to as before, Idia? Did we not grow up together? Did we not enjoy the closeness of family? I had thought that once I had proven myself, perhaps I would take you as my bride.
Don't be a fool! Now's not the time for such rubbish!
Rubbish.
Alternis. Alternis, your face.
Why?
Alternis!
I don't understand. Why does Face look like... he dropped this journal?
It looks identical to Ring-a-Bell's. Ring-a-Bell, who or what are you?
The ship cannot withstand much more of this! Back to the bridge! We'll talk about this later, Ring-a-Bell!
Right.
Alternis.
Hold on, everyone!
The ship has never shaken like this before. What's happening?
The ship won't respond. She's out of control.
How can this be?
It's as if we're being drawn in by an invisible force.
Drawn in?
Eri! Eri, what's happening?